Welcome to the Worship House podcast. Our heart is that we will be a resource to your ministry and help launch you into your destiny and into your calling like never before. And so we hope and we pray that it blesses you. All right, hello and welcome to the Worship House podcast. So excited you're here. We have such an amazing guest, who's such a great friend of mine, and can't wait to get there. And before we start, I just want to take 1 minute and thank our sponsor, OnSong, for sponsoring this. We really believe in OnSong, what they've done for the worship movement, how they've resourced worship leaders through the years, through set lists and all those amazing things. If you want more info on OnSong, visit their website, onsongapp.com, for more information. So, Chris, so good to have you, buddy. It's been good. We took some time and caught up a little bit, and before we started recording, and I just appreciate you so much. Chris and I had the honor of working together for a couple of years, and honestly, Chris is a great mentor in my life, and so it's a privilege always to have you here, and what you carry, what you've made a way for in worship. I think not many people will know that, but I do. And I honor that, and I honor you for all you carry and all you've done, man. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here, bud.
Well, let's start, just for some people that may not know your whole story and all that, just share a little bit about your journey with worship and, what God's done. I know that it's probably too long for this, but a shortened version or whatever you have. So,
I've been around long enough to understand what a shortened version has to
right.
be.
Yeah.
Um, well, I I got saved in '73 and had been playing guitar for a couple of years. And of course, if you're playing guitar in the Jesus movement, you're on a worship team. You're on something, you
Yeah.
know. And so I began to um, realize the difference between music that comes to me, that fills me,
Hmm.
and worship that comes as a response to God initiating something to me.
Yeah.
And uh, I just it was slow. It was so connected to music in the beginning, back in the '70s, that the idea of worship in and of itself took a while for me uh, to translate it to my heart as relationship as opposed to just doing music. And then
Yeah.
uh, years went by. I literally began, I think it was December of '73, I started leading worship. And that's really when, for me, things began to change because I would look out and I'd see people and I would see them responding and their facial expressions and tears and different things
Yeah.
and realize this whole aspect is more than just a song. This is
Yeah.
an interaction between humanity and divinity. And what an honor and privilege to be able to be in a position to strike some chords and say and sing some words. And then for those that want to go there, their opportunity is to go there. And so my whole thing over the year, I've been in a number of churches, I've traveled. We've moved a few different times because one thing or another, and somehow I always end up doing worship somewhere or helping the
Yeah.
pastor.
Well, that makes
And
sense. Yeah.
so from Rochester to New York City to Kansas City to Nashville, 10 years in Pennsylvania with you.
Yeah.
That was fun
Yeah, man.
getting
A
to
lot of
know you.
laughs.
Yeah. So we're back in Kansas City right now. Um, we're here with family and realizing at certain points in life, you need to be near family again. And
Yeah.
worship continues to be a part of my life, part of what I do,
Yeah.
um, and a part of what I love.
Yeah.
So when you said, "Hey, you want to come on and talk about worship," and I know that uh, wherever I go, it's not wherever I go. In some places that I go, it's it's the look and the youth and the cool thing. For me, that's fine if people want
Hmm.
to go there, but it is a it is much more than just saying the right words and having the right sound.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe my heart has softened over the years. I don't know.
Oh, I agree, man. That's such a good word because yeah, it's amazing that it worship has become the cool thing. I mean, how cool, but like if it stays there, if that's all that it is, like then we've really missed it. And I think that
Yeah.
you being, like what you've carried through the seasons and the songs and I remember I'd sit and just listen to stories, about you writing or who people doing your song. I think people probably know that you wrote "Dance with Me," which has had a big impact on my heart. We actually got the privilege of re-recording that together. I actually listened to that yesterday too while I
Did
was
you
driving.
really?
Yeah, it's just I was like, you know how you have moments where you're like, I'm impressed with me, you know. No, I was impressed with the whole production. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just was like, oh, this is beautiful, and so, but you've kind of seen you've walked through all these seasons and your voice still sounds amazing on it, man, too. I just wanted to say it because I'm listening to it like, dude, it's strong, really, really strong. I don't know if you've listened to that song recently or not, but
No, I haven't. I got to go back and listen to it
yeah,
because I do remember um, Nathan, who
yeah,
did did the work in the studio, um, said to me, "That was fun. Your voice was still there." And
yeah,
I
man.
thought, well, yeah, I'm not dead yet, and
Yeah. Yeah, I can still sing.
I can
Uh,
still sing. Yeah,
but you've kind of seen it all, man. I feel like that's one thing with you that I've found out over the years is that there's not really a situation in worship that you haven't walked through, that you haven't seen. And honestly, that you have insight and answers to, and that's not just saying that. That's like honestly, you've kind of seen the good and the bad, and you're a testimony to staying steadfast in the call of God on your life. That's what's always been for me so encouraging, because I think a lot of times we don't realize that there's like a really ugly side of worship. There's a real ugly side of the stage. You know what I mean? Like you get the stage and a platform involved in anything, and it's like, wow, that that's not as nice as I thought it was. And to the testimony of staying true to your calling, right? To walking and to, God's called you to it and you're still leading worship, you're still speaking, you're preaching, you're traveling, you're doing all these things. So it's a real testimony to many generations to come. And yeah, one of these times we'll have to get you on and just share a couple stories. I want to do with one where we just share worship stories and we get on with different people and we just tell crazy stories, about it.
well, yeah. Let me see. Since '73 to now, what is that? Almost 53 years of. I got stories, man.
Yeah, man. No, I know. They're amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you've heard some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's good. Well, today, we were talking about what to talk about, so many things we could, but what's on my heart that I think is really important for this moment. There's certain things that are just like this is one of these moment things, and it's something I've noticed is this. I just wanted to have a conversation for worship leaders, about this and get some good wisdom on it. But it's that I've noticed this trend that the older generation, okay, as like the thing to do in worship is to ask the older generation to step down at a certain moment to make room for the younger generation. Sometimes they ask, and then sometimes you just don't get scheduled anymore when you get old, or whatever. But whatever it is, that's like this is what you do in worship. And to me, what I've seen is we've seen worship since that's become the trend. Okay, we've seen worship go from like generations of worship leaders being fathered and mothered and walked with to really what I've been calling the orphan worship movement, where we've got we've got, kids raising kids, sons and daughters being mom and dad that don't really know how to do that. And there's not this natural handing down, like imparting what God's done and making way for the next generation. It's just like, this is what you do. And so to me, that's one of the biggest issues we have in worship. And so I'd love to hear, some of your experience with that. Like, do you feel like that's on, or like, what's your thought on that?
Gosh, no, you're it. I love the idea of the orphan aspect of children raising children.
Yeah.
The it's two ways. A younger generation needs to not cut off an older generation. There's something going on in society right now, and it's really true. And I'm reading and seeing and listening to different podcasters talk about um, one generation cutting off an older generation.
Okay.
I'm done with my mom and dad. I'm done with my older brother. I'm done
Right.
with whatever it is, and they just this ease to cut them off.
Yeah.
And it's seeped into I think the body of Christ in the sense of it's not the same because maybe of hurt, but because of a mindset that you were articulating, that someone isn't worth the time and the trouble because of their age. There's suddenly something
Wow.
is very different about them.
Yeah.
And what is the 1 year? I want to, as they say about abort. Okay, when's the one moment when it's okay to abort a child? And it's not. Well, is it a
Right.
minute before? Let's go back another day. Is it a day earlier? And there
Right.
isn't one. And
Right.
the same kind of thing is, what's the year when we're no longer worth having around? You know, is it 41? You're
Uh-huh.
fine at 40 or 39, but 40 now you're out to pasture. And
Right.
and so and on the other side, um, I think some worship leaders as they get older, they live in the era of where they had the greatest success.
Uh-huh. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah.
And so if they live there and they don't come along to embrace the music and the worship that's taking place now, the understanding, you hold on to what you have, but you add to it to what is now. And I've seen some older people that get upset, but the fact is they're living back in 1995.
Hmm.
And they're always going, let's love the 90s worship. I said, well, that's awesome. But can you do anything from the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
is there a song in your heart? Because God is continually moving. He's
Yeah.
breathing on people to add new song and new luster
Yeah.
to the invitation of worship. So, it's kind of both ways that as part of an older generation, I have to keep my finger on the pulse of what God's doing, and the different kinds of songs that are affecting. And it's not so much that I steal the songs, but I want to be able to take the truth of what's in them and the sound. The sound is 60s sound is different than 70s sound,
Hmm.
and 70s sound is different than 80s sound. And so there's always a sound of God that's going on.
Yeah.
And so I need to keep my finger on the pulse. At the same time, um, a younger generation is extremely unwise to cut off the years, the experience, and what someone from an older generation, a mother or a father. And I think of Luke 15 and the prodigal son story, but it was the father that restored the son. It wasn't the
Hmm.
brother. His brother didn't do anything. His brother
Hmm.
didn't want to restore him. There was jealousy, there was anger. And oftentimes, a child can't put a child in place because of the competition, the jealousy that's there. We need our fathers to put people in their places. And the thing is, the father didn't go away and just say, "Hey, there's a party. Let's go celebrate," and then leave the party. The father was there as well. The only
Yeah.
thing the father did to come out was to try to entice the older brother to join the party.
Yeah.
So it's all the generations together are called to love, to honor, and to party in God.
Yeah. 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 That's good, man. That's good. And I love that you kind of talked about, there's both sides to this too, like, and it's like, it's like, so there's this tension that I feel like has to be resolved. We want a full, healthy worship movement. Then this tension of what do we do, with the older generation? I think what frustrates me is that, as I look at the worship movement, I step back a little bit. This thing that the right thing to do, or like the normal thing to do, is to just at some point cut off the older generation. And I think that's what frustrates me. But I think you're right, it goes both ways. It's like, what are we doing as an older generation? And I guess I'm officially I'm in my mid 40s, and like it's like I kind of am like a more of a father in worship now. I've made that transition. I'm in the process, making that transition. But like what do we do to bridge that gap and to shine light on it? Because we can't lose the the fathers and the mothers making way for the next generation. And so it's a great conversation, man. And I love your viewpoint on it. It's awesome.
Well, everyone now, every 25-year-old will find themselves, you know, they won't believe it, but suddenly they will be just like you. They'll be 40, 41, 42,
Yeah.
and uh, you're in the world of both worlds.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me, you're a son.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But to others, you're a father.
Yeah.
And so being able to live in both worlds,
Wow. Yeah.
I love that time. I was in a church in Kansas City as the worship pastor for 10 years while I was mostly in my 40s.
Okay.
And so I was still young enough that some older folks, still called me the kid
Yeah.
because I was
Yeah.
baby faced. But then I was a father to so many, and you're in a unique position there with Worship House
Yeah.
to walk in both worlds. I think you're called to do that because you have a very useful heart,
Yeah.
and so
Oh,
you have your hands on this generation
yeah.
of what say that it's the generation of what's going on now in God,
Yeah.
and you have, as I said, your finger on the pulse of that. But you also carry, because of your background and because of your age and experience, um, you carry an ability to easily step into the role of father, not just as a man to others, but as kind of a representative of another. You were a part of another generation that did worship. I
Yeah.
mean, your own dad, you with your brother, and you can go back and do the old songs, and they're still alive to you. So to
Yeah.
have that, that's an important kind of a thing. Thing is,
Yeah.
if you cut off a generation because someone's too old, what you've cut off is all of God
Yeah.
from those generations.
Wow.
You've cut off God's work for 20, 30, 40 years
Yeah.
because you're convinced, I just know some people that are easily going to cut somebody off because they're not convinced that they can do the new thing. But
Right.
on the other hand, what an opportunity for a 25 to 30-year-old to take someone who's much older that has experience and to say, hey, man, do your stuff, but learn this stuff.
Yeah.
And this is how we, come together and help each other so that on a stage, people look up and go, wow, I'd have to be very cool. I'm going to have to buy some skinny jeans. I got to get a little cap. And I have to make sure that my shirt hangs this way.
Yeah.
And I use minimal amount of language during worship because I don't want to sound preachy, so I just want to stay cool.
Yeah.
Um, as opposed to looking up and seeing fathers and sons and mothers and daughters and love expressed, because if the more you have of that, the
Yeah.
less you have competition and comparison.
Yep. That's it.
If you're only comparing to a 27-year-old, then you're competing with a
Yeah.
27.
Yep.
If you're looking up and seeing multiple generations, if you're looking up and seeing family and love and experience, what it is, that's an invitation um, as opposed to something that you compete against.
Yeah, and you can't have family without the generations. You know what I mean? It's not a full picture, and I think a lot of times we're like, yeah, even like yeah, I always think of family because my daughter, she plays basketball, and her team, when they do the huddle, they, instead of yelling like their basketball name, they yell family, and
Oh,
I
God, that's
and
right.
yeah, and I'm always like, but I think about that kind of stuff. I don't know why that thought came into my mind, but you can't have the full picture without the moms and dads, the grandmothers and grandfathers and all of that in the picture. It actually, in a worship ministry setting, it takes things to another level when you can see it. And you're exactly right, it breaks down competition and all that. It's an amazing picture to look at it like that. And but I guess that could be painful for some people too, because some people want, like, don't have great relationships with their dad or their mom, and it's hard. I see that a lot of
That's a
times.
place for them to be healed in.
Yep,
I
that's right.
mean, when I was pastoring a certain church some years ago, my home was open to anybody, and people would come over all the time. And I would every season, every spring, summer, fall, winter, I'd have a Sunday where after 2 o'clock, let me get home and let me grab something to eat. But from 2 o'clock on, my home is open, and we're going to gather as the team. Now we had a total of approximately 150 to 200 people on in the worship world.
Yeah.
We had musicians, we had singers, we had sound people, we had dancers, we had actors,
Wow.
you name it. And so at one point in time, it was a little over 200.
Wow,
And
man. Yeah.
so not the whole crew, but tons of people would come over every quarter.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything set. It was was all the instruments were out, enjoy each other, worship together, one room, and the other room, they're down there playing foosball, or they're watching, some football game.
Yeah.
In the kitchen, they're eating brownies and, talking and laughing and playing some board game.
Yeah.
And um, time and time again, they just said, you know, all you did was open your home. We brought the food, you instruments were out, they would bring whatever. But over time, the competition rarely existed
Yeah.
because once you love and know someone, you don't want to compete with them. You want to join with them.
Right.
You want to be part of their life. You don't want
Yeah.
to compete against them.
Right. And
And so, yeah,
celebrate their wins. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Mm.
amazing. Yeah.
But it happens with generations, and fathers have to open that up, and then a younger generation has to be willing to get to know and to step out of the, but I'm called to do this, I have to do this. And when you're, I have seen calling get in the way so many times of relationship.
Yep.
You know, I've seen, I've got a mandate from God to do this, really.
Yeah.
But the way you're going about it is that, you know, every human being you really don't care about, you just care about your mandate.
Yeah.
You don't care about the life that God breathed into. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
not working good.
that's like, honestly, dude, like that's like my journey right there. Because for the first, 4 or 5 years of me being a worship pastor, it was, I know I'm called to do this, and it was this idea that everybody served my calling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, well, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming. Yep. This is what we're doing, because I'm here. And like, that was and then I had a radical encounter with Jesus, radical encounter, it changed our world. And what happened was, before, I couldn't keep musicians. What in the world? These people don't want to serve me. And then all of a sudden, I encountered Jesus, like, as a father who loves me, changed my entire world. And I started to realize that I've been put here to see other people's dreams come true. And that's actually the true dream of my heart. And when I did that, the worship ministries just grew and grew and grew, and like, just God kept making room for people to come and to walk in their destiny. In the process, all my dreams God was faithful to fulfill. You know what I mean? Like albums and this, all the things you're like, oh, this is it, but like as I open my heart up to love and to walk with and to see the call of God on people's lives. I talk to a lot of worship leaders that can't tell worship pastors that can't tell me what what the call of God on their guitarist life is, and like that's actually an issue for me. Like I if you're gonna pastor, if you're gonna lead a ministry, I think that one of the main calls is to know what God's calling your team to and to help walk and cultivate that. So that was probably a side tangent, but I had to say that. So
No, no, but I think that is well, that's the thing I saw from you when we were together in Pennsylvania, and you were a worship pastor at the church there.
yeah,
Um, you you fathered well. You understood people. You understood what they're about, and you wanted to. And um, you weren't playing a role. You were fulfilling a call by fulfilling their call.
yeah.
And it was very easy to watch, and it was very enjoyable because, like,
Oh,
it actually, honestly, it had been a while
oh, yeah,
because I had been in a place where before that where people you are here to serve my call.
yeah,
And it was true in a ministry some years beforehand of that gathering people, hundreds and thousands of people, but to
yeah,
serve the call of someone,
yeah,
as opposed to realizing that um, Ephesians 4:11, the whole fivefold ministry is to equip the saints, to release them to do the work of the ministry.
yep,
And um, in whatever role I am in, if I'm not doing that, I'm not doing what I'm called to do.
yeah,
Apostles and pastors and evangelists and prophets and teachers, etc. They're whatever title role people have, it's not to fulfill their call. Others aren't called to them for them. Those places and people and ministries are called to see people, to know people,
yeah,
and to pull out the God and the power of God in people.
yeah.
So you've done that. I've seen that, and if I ever, you know me, you can get to me. If I ever get to the place where it's about me, come find me and slap me.
Oh, yeah, yeah, man. No, I agree, man. It's I think it's a call to pastor. Like, so it's a call that we need to take serious is to pastor a ministry or to call yourself worship pastor. Well, what does that mean? Is it, that there is a responsibility, and this is just my heart. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't belittle people that are just worship leaders and writing songs for the church and like, man, that's amazing. That's awesome. I sometimes
Oh,
I ask God, just make me that for just like a year or two. That'd be fun. You know what I mean? No, but it's just it wouldn't be honest. I like, when you're called to be worship pastor, there's something that comes with that, and that means to walk with, to shepherd, to see everyone that God gives you like launched into their destiny, not to hold them tight, not to, but just to launch and to release. And so that's been something for me that God's had to deal with, though. It hasn't, I made these mistakes as a young worship leader. And, I think that's why I'm so passionate about the older generation, and making sure that we walk with the next generation so that they don't repeat some of the things that I repeated or, or whatever. It's just important to me to see that happen. And yeah, I have, yeah. Sorry, you go.
no, no, no. As you're talking about pastors and worship pastors, but there's also the church pastors.
Yep.
And what what releases worship in a church is this divine tension and relationship that's there between worship leader, worship pastor, and the church pastor.
Yeah.
And so while we're talking here about wanting to see, people come into what they're called to do, there's an aspect of you know, a pastor of a local church being able to envision them and to I mean, when I got saved in 73, the main part of ministry was worship.
Yeah.
And I got stuck, and I am thankful very much to this day to the Lord for doing that. But he put me in a church where the word of God was strong and teaching was strong, but worship was strong.
Yeah.
And so it became a priority.
Yeah.
Um, and so as a worship leader and then a worship pastor, having pastors that had worship as a priority was huge for me. And it gave me great liberty and it gave me great insight. And it inspired me to write and to go that way. But I've also seen pastors that don't see worship. They see it as it's a drawing point for people to get them. No, it that is a side issue. It
Yeah.
does draw, but that's not why you have it.
Right.
And
Right.
so and so you are going to go through worship leaders after worship leaders if worship is just, you know, the siren song to get people to come to your local church. So
Right.
I
Right.
implore if there's any pastors listening here, um, that see the God priority of worship and inspire those and learn how to uh, open doors for others to do that, give them liberty to do that, and then learn how to take your hands off it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just be a father and breathe on it
Wow.
and encourage. But if you have a pastor that shuts down, you could have the greatest worship leaders, you could have the greatest worship pastor, but if everything is hands on and the pastor has to do this, and by the way, I heard just this last week of these people were telling me some experience that they had in worship over the years, and there was a pastor that was insecure about the worship leaders and the worship pastors giving too much direction. So he gave the worship team directions about how they need to look, dress, act, what songs they have to do, came down from the pastor.
Right.
And they had a list of 10 every week, and
Wow.
they had to pick songs from within that.
Hmm.
And uh, they said at one point in time, he said, if we lift our hands, we have to open our eyes. So we can't lift our hands on stage and have our eyes closed.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh my gosh, he's in the weeds about everything.
Right.
Release, release these people, inspire them to go higher instead of becoming the ceiling for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
man.
pastors, I'll tell you, pastors, you have no idea the power. I'll use that, but the authority you have to bring worship to a higher level if you inspire and then you just take your hands off and let others make mistakes on their way to glory.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's one of the number one things as I walk with worship leaders is that relationship between pastor and worship, the pastor worship leader. And there's always this tension there. And a lot of times it's just having sit down conversations where they understand each other because it's like, well, I feel like you don't trust me when you do this. You know, the worship leader says that, and the worship pastor says, well, I feel like you don't, or the pastor says, I feel like you don't listen to me, you know, and you have these conversations, and really that's such a huge point. You know what I mean? And there needs to be that connection, and to have a pastor who is just like, hey, I'm going to be the wind in your sails. I believe in you that, you know, you carry the heart of the church, and we're going to be behind you and to fan the flame. That's a game changer. That's a rarity, I feel like, in worship, you know? So, wow.
When I had that years ago, my worship leading and my songwriting took off like never before.
Yeah.
When I had someone that just poured that belief into me, it was really funny. And also, I watched, I was a part of a church a number of years ago, and there were three of us that were the main worship leaders. I was the last one there. Uh, and then a year after I was there, one of the guys left. So there was just two of us.
Hmm.
A year later, that guy left. And so there was me, and they said, well, you become the worship pastor. But then I realized why they left was because of control. They
Yeah.
left because they were burned out. They left because they were made to do that which was beyond what they were called to do
Yeah.
when they just needed to hire somebody else to do an administrative thing or whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
And so I said no. And they said, "What?" I said, "I no, I'm teaching junior high and I'm having fun."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, well, but please. And so they had to hire another guy, and that didn't work. And they came back and they said, "Take the job." I said, "No." And they said, "Well, what will it do? What can we do to give you the job?" And so I went to a board and I began to, they said they put all the things they wanted me to do. And I took an eraser and I just erased half of them.
Yeah.
And I said, find someone else to do the things I erased. If you want me, I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did that. And then instead of being there for 1 or 2 years, I was there for 10 years
Yeah. That's great.
because there was great life and there was a belief and they watched it grow. They watched new people come in. They watched teams get built and people, put in place. And so, that role of pastor is so important. You can shut people down because you're good at administration, but I can guarantee half or more worship leaders and worship pastors are not the greatest in administration.
Right.
So if that's the case and you want what they have in worship, then don't put it all on them. Find another resource to take care of the things that they're not called to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's people that are waiting to be plugged in and involved. I had a conversation with Ray Hughes and he was talking about um in your is there a librarian in your in your group of worship leaders that can like, you know how Ray is and like he has like just like
Love
all
Ray.
these concepts of people like seeing your team and maybe the admin person's right there in front of you too or like like having eyes for all of that I think is so huge. And but yeah, wow.
That's what happened for me. They ended up hiring an admin person
Yeah.
who then was in my office, and it's like, Chris, what are you thinking about this? And I would give them a 5 minute little speech on my vision for the upcoming conference or this, that, or recording or the play or whatever it was. And then they would take it and disseminate the information to everyone that needed to hear about things.
Yeah, that's good.
Um, and so it freed me to do what I was called to do. I had to administrate certain things. I couldn't get around that, but um, wow, that was a 10-year ride. That was a beautiful thing because people
Amazing.
were in the right place doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. It's amazing. Yeah, this is all gold, man. Like I know we're a little like off it, but like I just feel like this all of this stuff is so important, like if you're a worship leader, yeah, just carry these nuggets from you, man, because that's amazing, amazing, and I think it all ties together. Tell me, do you have any and if you I don't want to put you on the spot with this at all, but do you have any like practical advice for let's do like practical advice for the older generation to stay plugged in, like to the next generation? I think what comes to mind that I find a lot is that what once like let's say the stage is removed from you, like you were leading worship and then all of a sudden you're not leading worship. And if they talk to you about it or if they just didn't schedule or whatever the case is, you know, there's a generation, the older generation with the call of God for worship on them and maybe losing the stage or wherever you're at and not working. Like, how do you stay plugged in to what God's doing? How is there anything practical for like saying, you know what, even though this is the case, I'm still gonna press it and walk out the call of God that hasn't left my life, or does that make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense. You know, there's two things. One is if you're not scheduled anymore or the platform is gone at the moment, be careful that you're not doing things to get back up there.
Ah, yeah,
So, in other words, well, I'm going to learn all the latest songs and I'm going to get it down and I'm going to sound young. Well,
yeah,
you know, again, get rid of the skinny jeans, get rid of the cap, and you're not that.
yeah,
Uh, realize that you are not what you do.
yeah.
You
That's good.
do. an extension of who you are.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so if what you're trying to do is get back on a platform and a stage, your motivation is wrong to begin with. So the worship is going to be skewed because your heart is in a wrong place.
Wow. That's so
Um,
good, man. Yeah.
so I would say, uh, if that is so important to you, then open your home on a Sunday night and during the week begin to learn some songs that people are singing now and that they're loving and they're a part of the flow of things now. Open your home
Yeah.
and worship doesn't have to be on a platform. It can be in your living room.
Yep. Dude,
And
that's a word. That's such a good word. Come on.
well,
Yeah.
I've got a dear friend of mine, and he actually was when I was talking about those two people that I was doing worship with at this place,
Yeah.
and he was one of them. And every Sunday night, he has worship in his home, and then once a month or once every couple months, he goes to a church on a Friday night or Saturday night, and they have a blowout kind of worship time.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's not for the, he says sometimes there's 12, 14 people, sometimes there's 100. He goes, I don't care. But
Yeah.
what happens is I get to connect with the people that I love, my worship family,
Yeah.
and we do what we're called to, part of what we're called to do.
Yeah.
And so if your only expression of worship is from the platform, then you're not a worship leader per se because you're not leading in your own life.
Right.
If
Wow.
you have to lead yourself first. If
Wow,
you're not
man.
leading you, you shouldn't probably be leading others. um, and so
Yeah, dude.
don't make it about the platform. Make it about worship being how can I put worship into my life that makes a difference for me? I will worship myself. And, on Monday nights, instead of Monday Night Football, it's going to be Monday Night Worship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And find a place to express your heart and your gift.
Dude, that's so powerful, man. Like honestly, that I think that means so much. And that if the Lord's called you to it, no matter like it has to be more than what platform you have to express it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like powerful, man. I love that. That's such a great call. That's something that I'll use, just too as I talk to, the older generation of worship, just like kind of being creative with what God's given us, what we're called to do, and the areas that we can express that. So yeah, I love that idea, man. I love all that too. So that's awesome.
Good. Well, worship leaders like to do a conference and have titled their breakout thing, Worship as a Lifestyle.
Yeah. Yep.
But the lifestyle is learning new songs for the next Sunday.
You're right. Right.
That's
Yeah.
not a lifestyle. You
Yeah.
know, it just needs to be a part of who you are. It's not the thing that overtakes all that you do, but the idea is it's incorporated into who you are and your schedule and the priorities that you have in your life. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I know worship leaders. It's like a pastor that only opens the Bible to to do a sermon.
hmm
So in other words, what happened to the man or the woman that used to run to open their Bible just to ingest and feed upon the Word of God? What happened to that person?
Yeah.
Because now that person is opening the Bible so that they can have reference for the next sermon that they want to do. Well, what happened to the worship leader that used to weep during worship?
hmm
And now it's all about learning this new song or this new lick that we're going to do here, and that we get upset with someone because they don't have the exact right sound and your harmony's off. And what happened to the purity of your heart?
Yeah.
Um, and so that's as a lifestyle. That's what we need to get back to.
Dude, that's so good. That is so good. Thank you for that. Yeah, I want to ask you this, and this can kind of be the last. I'm trying to see where we're at time wise, but I wanted on the other end, is there anything that you could say, to the younger generation that, maybe you're a worship pastor that's come into a situation and you've got a team like it's like full of like, like the older generation, and then there's some younger people. Like, what can you say, what would be something practical that we could say? This is the heart posture as like, a 30-year-old, 20-year-old, like as you're in there and you're dealing with the next generation. Is there any wisdom, on that topic?
Well, the best way to communicate is to us the best, I mean, not the best way, the most weight that you have in communication is out of relationship. It's out
Okay,
of
yeah.
trust.
Yeah.
And so I will hold off saying things and doing things, and I'll wait for that moment where I can feel that the trust in the relationship is to the point that I can convey the information without it, destroying someone or coming out of anger or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Um, if you're 25, 30, 35-year-old, um, and you just want to shape you want upper room next week. You want to create this, Maverick said, we're gonna have this, and we're gonna have diversity, and we're gonna um I appreciate vision, but if vision bypasses relationship and,
Yep.
and trust, uh, you're in trouble.
Yep.
So, I don't know if that's kind of answering what it is, but
No, I
the
think so.
the
Absolutely.
important thing again is when you're young, you think about it as a little kid, um, that when you're uh, 12, I want to drive now. I want
Yeah.
to, I want to drive as soon as I can. I want
Hmm.
a girlfriend as soon as I can, or boyfriend. I want to get married right away. I want to, and there's something that we want to do. And the older that we get, we realize, I need to do that. And,
Hmm.
but it's going to be a process.
Yeah.
And so when you're younger, you just want to get right to the thing you want to do. The older you get, the more mature you get, the more you see and understand process.
Yep.
So
Yep.
my thing for younger leaders is to pray and ask God for a vision for process, not just the vision of what you want it to look like at the end, but
Yeah.
what's the process? Because you can destroy everybody in the process, or everyone can end up being all together at the end of it. And
Hmm.
now you've got something much more powerful.
Wow. Yeah, that's a word. If you're young and you're listening to this, write that down because that's powerful for just perspective and bringing people along to where, you're going to. And I love to, like if you're young and you're in here and you've got this big ministry with all these ages, like start with relationship. That I thought that was such a good word too. It's like sit down with the next generation, talk to them, like be open, say of what they can bring, how they can speak into your life, and then and then like build a relationship before you start making decisions, and I know there's this one story. It's a guy that was in our when we were at the church together, and he's an older guy, guitar player, and I love him, and I just remember he came and he's great. He's been playing for years, a phenomenal musician. But I just remember that if I wouldn't have, this is just always sticks out to me. If we wouldn't have made a way for him to play guitar, the effect that he would have on the next generation of guitarists, I just was always staggered by it. Like I would see him giving a pedal to somebody, or you know what I mean, or like sharing tone advice or talking amps, or hey, why don't you borrow my guitar, why don't you just borrow this thing for a bit, play on this, a guitar that they could never afford, you know what I mean. And there's something about just like just partnering with people and allowing them, creating the space for them to actually to raise up the next generation, all that kind of stuff. But that's a story, for I always hold on to that, watching this guy give gear and equipment
Yep.
and it's like that's the stuff that really matters.
I
you
know who
know?
you're talking about, and I remember when you put him in, and how you found a place for him to fit.
Yeah.
I thought that was just the most wonderful thing. And we'd sit back there, um, kind of in the green room area, and he would just be one of the guys, and
Yeah.
on either side of him there was someone 1/3 of his age,
Yep. Yep.
and they all felt fine together and all learned and he would learn from them.
Yeah, I know that was cool. That was
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be family, and I think that that's just a great place to even, close up. Is that like we got to this, we talked about this a lot, but I just the whole time we're talking, I keep remembering what you said about how their family is like a full picture. It's granddads, grandmothers,
Well,
sons,
and,
daughters,
there's kids.
and
There's little
kid.
kids. I
Yeah.
had um, you know, a 15-year-old that came to me years ago and said, I want to be on the worship team. And, I had him play for me, and it was terrible. It was out of tune. He didn't
Yeah.
even know it was out of tune.
Yeah.
So we got him a tuner, and I said, yeah, we'll just see. And the Lord quickly said, put him on the team. It's
Yeah.
like, God, he can't play. So I got him a little amp. It's kind of like situation, a little bit like the older generation, the older man that you were talking about
Yeah.
in the church we were in. And so I got him a little speaker. It was that big, and it just sat up on a stand, and he heard himself, and he
Yep.
heard whatever he wanted to, but he was not out in the general auditorium. He
Yep.
wasn't,
Yep.
and he just kept getting better and better and better. And I just think, thank God I put him on this team, because shortly thereafter, my bass player left. My guitarist went back to play bass. And by this time, he was proficient enough to play guitar.
Yeah.
And he's now one of the main guitarists in Nashville.
Yeah. Come on,
He's
man.
everybody and their brother wants this guy to play, and not just, it's Christian folks, but I see him on TV all the time.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
playing with major stars because he gave himself to his instrument and to his gift. But I look back, and he every now and then he reminds me. He goes, Chris, thanks for taking a shot at a 15-year-old kid who couldn't even tell it was in tune.
Dude.
And so I want to. It's two ways. I want to invite. It's not just younger generation make a way for me. It's older generation inspire and encourage and open doors for the other generations. And let's be on if there's competition, let's see who can be the most generous and most kind
Yeah.
to another generation to get them to be and to do all God's called them to do.
Wow, man. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the ministry
Oh,
would look like? It'd be
it would be
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, man. There's so much here. So many amazing things and I mean this is our heart, as I'm doing this podcast, I feel like, that God just wants to use these conversations in people's lives. Like the practical things are important in worship ministry. And so I just feel like so many amazing practical things, hopefully that whoever's listening can just take to their teams, implement in their teams, and be inspired to yeah to see unity come all throughout and to raise up a ministry that's going after Jesus together as a family. And so
Yeah.
such an amazing time talking, man. I appreciate.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
I love you, and I love what you're doing. I love your heart, and it's always great to see your face and hear your voice.
Yeah, buddy. All right, man. Thank you for joining us. And if you want more information on Worship House, what we're doing, what we're up to, you can go to worshiphouse.co and get all the information you need. And please check out some other podcasts, some other videos, and some other things going on with Worship House. Bless you guys. Have an amazing day.